The other one is, which I didn't know about until we were in the Meenakshi temple, is the third child of Shiva.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are the two things.
Which is the third child?
The third child, according to this, was the child that came from Shiva and Vishnu.
Yes, I'll talk about it.
And about the Shaktapitas and Sati, the first wife of Shiva.
I don't know, it's very interesting. Shiva had two wives. The first wife was Sati, and she was called Sati, and she fell in love with him when she was very young, and it didn't take much for Shiva to fall in love with her because she was very intellectual. And she marries him against her parents' wishes, especially her father, who is called Daksh, who is a devout worshipper of Vishnu. See, most of these myths will tell you about the cultic rivalry between the different gods. So India has not been a land of peace even within Hinduism. There's always been a lot of stress and a lot of tensions. So Sati's father was a worshipper of Vishnu. He hated Shiva. And there are long passages in which he said, what kind of man do you want to marry? He besmears himself with ashes of corpses. He has matted locks. He has funny friends. He's just horrible. He smokes ash. And he's very much against her marrying. But she insists, so with a heavy heart, he lets her marry her. But he's very rude to Shiva whenever he can get an opportunity. And the worst time was when he's having a huge feast in his house, a big yajna, and he invites all the celestial creatures, each and every one. So you're told that even the grass is invited, and all the gods and goddesses, and even the tortoise is invited. I mean, everyone's invited except Shiva and Parvati. Shiva and Sati, except Sati. And she is so upset because she can see aerial chariots going on top of her, and she's asking them, where are you going? They said, oh, you didn't know your father is having this feast and you've not been invited. So she goes and she cries in front of Shiva, says, please, I want to go. And he knows that it's not going to be good news. He can tell. He said, no, you've not been invited. She said, do I have to be invited to my own father's place? So that again is sometimes what happens between couples. And she says, no, but he hates me. It's going to be awful. I'm not going, no matter what. So she said, if you're not going, it's okay, I'm going. And she goes. And when she goes there, she is insulted so badly. She doesn't mind it that her father is insulting her. What upsets her tremendously is that he insults Shiva in no uncertain terms. He says the worst thing. She argues with him. It becomes metaphysical. It becomes philosophical. She gives all the theories about why Shiva is the greatest. But finally, she feels so insulted that she creates a fire within her own being through her yoga, because she was very intellectual, very yogic. And it's a conflagration that takes place, and she gets burnt and she dies. And that's when they go and tell Shiva. And Shiva comes running and he's grief-stricken, and he puts her on his body, and of course he destroys the sacrifice, he kills Daksha, all that happens, but he puts her on his body. Sometimes you'll see on the trident she's there, Sati, that goddess, and he does the dance of sorrow, and he's dancing with her so much that, and again it tells us about death, how much you can grieve, and how much when should you stop. You should know enough of grieving. Now you have to get on in life. And it's very beautiful the way Vishnu as his friend comes. They're not rivals here. Vishnu comes and says, I'm going to help you. He said no, and he's just not letting go of the dead body. How you have to let go of the dead body. So he takes his weapon and he slices Sati into various pieces when she is on the shoulder of Shiva. And those pieces of her body, wherever they fell, those became the pitas, the seats of the goddess, where her vagina fell, where her breast fell, different parts of India. This is all of sacred geography coming together. It's a beautiful story. I didn't have time to talk about it, but it's one of my most favorite stories because I wrote about one whole chapter on Sati. In fact, whenever I read out from the book Sati, I myself am going to cry because the tension between the mother, how much she loved her father, how much her father loved her, but how much she had to sacrifice when she wanted to marry a man she loved. It's beautifully written about, and I just let my imagination go haywire when I was writing it, Sati. So she's the first wife, and then Parvati, there is a manifestation of Sati. She's born again as Parvati. Sati was his first wife. So that's the story of Sati and the sacred geography and all the goddess spots that you have. Kamakhya in Assam, there is a vagina-like cleft there, which remarkably has red color water emanating from it.
I sent him
yes, Once a year, she's supposed to be the menstruating goddess. Her vagina, it's very moist, and I made a film with BBC, so I went with the BBC crew up there. And it's a remarkable place. I mean, you should see your entire Assam government. It just makes all passage, all rides and trains free for the entire duration of that worship of that goddess. That is how powerful she is. And sacrifices are still taking place. People say they don't take place. I have seen myself bulls and buffaloes and everything being sacrificed for the yoni image. Yoni is vagina, the yoni image of the goddess. And her breast fell somewhere else, and her eyes fell in Nainital. Nani is to do with eyes, Nana. So like that, different parts, they all come together. The sacred geography brings all the myths together under one Brahminical fold. And then it also, many people say, how does this country stay united where every 10 minutes, 10 miles you walk, everything changes, the clothes, the food, the language, the gods. Somebody said it must be the religion, because everything is tied together with everything. I don't know if that is, I'm not saying it, somebody said it. I didn't. Some people said it was cricket. I agree more about cricket and Bollywood. Cricket and Bollywood bring people together, but some say that even this religion does. And the second thing is, it's remarkable, the gay community has loved this story about Shiva and Vishnu having a child together. And it seems that when the Kumbh, and this is connected with the Kumbh Mela as well, when the churning of the ocean took place, again it's a creation myth, everything wonderful is underneath the ocean. And the gods and the anti-gods are fighting with each other constantly, because the nectar, that is Amrit, has gone way deep into the ocean and it has to be revived. So how to bring it up? So the gods go on one side, anti-gods, and they start churning the ocean. And as they're churning the ocean, all kinds of wonderful things come up in the churning of the ocean. And eventually, the nectar which is in a kumbh, which is in a nice pot, the anti-gods take it. And there's so much of guile and trickery and buffoonery and cunningness involved. Immoral behavior also among the gods. That's why it's so funny. So the anti-gods win it and they start running with it. And then Vishnu and Shiva don't know what to do. And Vishnu said, I will become a beautiful woman and I will seduce them. So he becomes this beautiful woman called Mohini, and he goes and seduces the anti-gods. So they spill the kumbh, and Vishnu takes it immediately and goes running, as Mohini goes running towards Shiva. Now guess what? Shiva sees this beautiful woman and he can't help himself. He falls in love with her, who is actually a man. And the two coming together like that give rise to Shasta or Ayyappa. Different names are there. So, I mean, what is amazing is that these stories still resound with people there, and they still people get so much of happiness from these stories, which we can laugh at. That is the beauty of these cinemas.
Oh, wonderful.